Obese woman was proposed to in front of everyone, but she had no idea that it was part of a cruel bet. But when she discovered the truth, she did something her fiancé never expected. Letitia smoothed her hands over her floral dress once more, trying to flatten non-existent wrinkles. Her 253 pounds distributed across her 5 inches frame made the fabric fit differently on her body. But she had chosen that piece with such care for her date with Rodrigo. 6 months together, 6 months of affectionate messages, passionate encounters, and a love that seemed to grow each day. Seated in the restaurant, she observed the other tables, couples, families, friends. Everyone seemed to be in their own perfect worlds. Letitia never imagined she would also be living her fairy tale. Since adolescence, when her weight began to increase significantly, relationships had always been complicated. The cruel words from classmates at school, the comments disguised as concern from family, the judgmental looks on the street, all of this had built a wall around her heart. Until she met Rodrigo on the dating app. Right from the first date, he surprised her. There was no discomfort or embarrassment. His eyes didn't look away when she arrived. On the contrary, he looked at her with admiration, commented on her enchanting smile, listened with genuine interest to her stories. For the first time, Letitia felt truly seen by someone. "Sorry I'm late," Rodrigo's voice interrupted her thoughts. Tall, with a smile that lit up the entire room, he leaned in to kiss her. A group of friends followed him, something she wasn't expecting. "I hope you don't mind. I ran into my buddies on the way and invited them. I want everyone to meet the incredible woman I'm with." Letitia smiled, slightly uncomfortable with the unexpected presence, but happy that Rodrigo wanted to introduce her to his friends. The evening proceeded with laughter and stories. Now and then, she noticed glances exchanged between Rodrigo and his friends, especially Lucas, who seemed to be constantly checking his watch. Small details that her insecurity highlighted, but that her love-struck heart quickly dismissed. After dessert, when Letitia was already thinking about the end of the night, Rodrigo stood up. The entire restaurant seemed to fall silent when he knelt before her. In his hands, a small velvet box containing a delicate ring. "Letitia, from day one, you've brought light into my life. Your smile, your kindness, your strength, everything about you enchants me. I know it might seem rushed, but when we find true love, there's no reason to wait. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Tears blurred her vision as the restaurant erupted in applause. People at nearby tables smiled. Rodrigo's friends filmed the moment. Letitia, who had spent her entire life feeling invisible, was now the center of attention. Not because of her 253-pound body, but because she was loved, chosen, valued. "Yes," she whispered, her heart overflowing with happiness. "Yes, I accept." The weeks following the marriage proposal were the happiest of Letitia's life. Her phone wouldn't stop receiving notifications. Friends, family members, even work colleagues she barely spoke with wanted to congratulate her. The video of the proposal had spread across social media, accumulating thousands of views. "A love that goes beyond appearances," said the kinder comments. Letitia, with her 253 pounds, had become a symbol of hope for many women who, like her, didn't fit beauty standards. Letitia's mother, Donna Clelia, who had always worried about her daughter's weight, now seemed to have completely forgotten that detail. "My daughter is getting married," she proudly announced to the neighbors. Her father, a man of few words, surprised everyone by embracing her at length and saying, "You deserve to be happy, my little one." At home, Letitia spent hours planning every detail of the wedding. She had chosen a date 6 months away, enough time to organize everything, but not so long as to prolong the wait. Rodrigo had enthusiastically agreed, suggesting an outdoor wedding at a venue on the outskirts of the city. "I want it to be a memorable event so everyone can see how special you are," he said. However, small changes began to appear in her fiancé's behavior. Rodrigo started canceling dates at the last minute, claiming work commitments. The affectionate messages became rarer, replaced by short, practical responses about wedding preparations. When they were together, he constantly checked his phone, as if expecting something important. "It's just the stress from work and the preparations," Letitia told herself, pushing away the doubts that were beginning to arise. Deep down, however, the old fear of rejection was awakening. One night after Rodrigo left hurriedly after dinner, She found herself examining her own body in front of the mirror. The voluminous thighs, the prominent belly, the heavy arms. What if he's having regrets? What if he's realized he doesn't want to spend his life with an obese woman? It was Mariana, her best friend since childhood, who first expressed concern. Don't you think everything is happening too fast? You've barely known each other for 6 months, she questioned during lunch. Letitia defended her fiancé vehemently, but her friend's words planted a seed of unease. 2 weeks later, Rodrigo invited her to dinner at the same restaurant where he had proposed. I have a surprise for you, he said on the phone, his voice once again carrying that enthusiasm from the early days. Letitia's heart warmed. Maybe she was just imagining things. Maybe he really was just stressed with work. That night, she carefully chose her outfit, a navy blue dress that accentuated her eyes, one of the few physical attributes she had always liked about herself. She applied her makeup meticulously and styled her hair in an elegant bun. Upon arriving at the restaurant, she noticed that Rodrigo was already there, sitting at the same table as before, chatting animatedly with Lucas and another friend. When he saw her approaching, Rodrigo stood up, smiling. But there was something different in his gaze, something that made Letitia's stomach contract with sudden apprehension. It was then that she noticed, at the next table, a woman with long blonde hair and a slender body who kept looking in her direction, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Letitia approached the table with a hesitant smile. The atmosphere was different from that magical night of the proposal. Rodrigo greeted her with a cold kiss on the cheek, his eyes avoiding direct contact. Lucas and the other friend exchanged glances, while the blonde woman at the neighboring table continued to observe her with poorly disguised interest. Is everything okay? Asked Letitia, settling her 253 pounds in the chair that seemed strangely smaller this time. The waiter brought a bottle of champagne that Rodrigo had ordered in advance. What are we celebrating? Actually, Rodrigo began, his voice sounding metallic, we have something to confess. He paused dramatically, looking at his friends for support. Lucas nodded, urging him to continue. You remember how we met, right? On the dating app? Letitia nodded, feeling a sudden chill down her spine. The blonde woman had now stood up and was approaching their table. Well, it wasn't exactly a coincidence. It was a bet, Rodrigo continued, now speaking faster, like someone who wants to finish an unpleasant topic quickly. The guys bet that I couldn't make a woman like you, believe that I was in love. The marriage proposal part was my idea to prove I had gone above and beyond. Letitia's world collapsed in slow motion. Each word was a sharp blade against her skin. The blonde woman was now standing beside Rodrigo, her hand resting possessively on his shoulder. This is Vanessa, my girlfriend. She knew everything from the beginning. Vanessa smiled without any trace of guilt. Sorry about this, honey. Rodrigo has always been too competitive. But you were a good sport, weren't you? I mean, you really believed that someone like him would genuinely be interested in someone, well, like you. The entire restaurant seemed to be watching the scene. Some people were discreetly filming with their phones. Letitia recognized faces that were present on the night of the proposal. Did they know? Did everyone know it was a farce? Lucas pulled a small camera from his pocket. We have everything recorded, from the first date to the proposal. The video already has 500,000 views. You're famous, Letitia. Hot tears streamed down Letitia's face, but she remained seated, motionless. Her mind worked frantically, trying to process the humiliation. 6 months of her life, 6 months of hopes, dreams, plans for the future, all an elaborate lie to entertain strangers on the internet. Rodrigo extended his hand. The ring, please. It was expensive, even though it's fake. Something inside Letitia broke at that moment. But it wasn't just her heart. It was also the invisible chain that kept her tied to the idea that her worth was linked to others' approval. With a calmness that surprised even herself, she removed the ring and placed it on the table. You know what's really sad, Rodrigo? It's not the fact that I'm a 253-pound woman who fell for a cruel trap. It's the fact that you're so empty that you need to destroy someone to feel important. She stood up, legs trembling, but her voice firm. You may have won your bet, but you lost something much more valuable, the chance to experience true love. Because what I felt was real, even if yours wasn't. And with that, Letitia turned her back and walked toward the exit, each step taking her away not just from that table, but from the insecure person she had been until then. The people around her, realizing what was happening, began to murmur. Some looked with contempt at Rodrigo and his friends. On the sidewalk outside the restaurant, under the dim light of the street lamps, Letitia took a deep breath. The humiliation burned, but something else was also growing inside her, a fierce determination she had never felt before. That night, Letitia cried herself to sleep. Her bed, once filled with dreams of a future with Rodrigo, now felt like a boat adrift in an ocean of hurt. By morning, her swollen face and her 253-pound body seemed to weigh twice as much. She dragged herself to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, red eyes, pale skin, defeated expression. This was how she had really seen herself for years, even when trying to convince herself otherwise. Her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Dozens of notifications, messages, and missed calls. With apprehension, Letitia picked up the device. A new video was going viral. Obese woman discovers marriage proposal was a hoax. Cruel comments, malicious jokes, memes. But to her surprise, there were also messages of support. Women and men from across the country expressed outrage at the cruelty, shared similar stories of rejection, offered words of encouragement. One message in particular caught her attention. It was from Carla, a nutritionist who had seen the video and was revolted by the situation. What they did to you was unforgivable, but your final response was inspiring. If you want to talk, I'm here, not to judge your body, but to support your journey, whatever it may be. A week later, Letitia met Carla at a cafe. Not to start a strict diet, as many would expect, but to better understand her relationship with food, with her body, with her self-esteem. It's not about losing weight to fit the standards, Carla explained. It's about regaining control over your life, making choices that prioritize your physical and emotional well-being. In parallel, Letitia sought psychological help. The sessions with Dr. Helena revealed old scars, the bullying at school, derogatory comments from family members, previous relationships where she was treated as a shameful secret. Each session was painful, but also liberating. She was finally confronting the ghosts that had haunted her since adolescence. 3 months after the public humiliation, Letitia made a courageous decision. Using the account she had created to share her perspective on the incident, she began to document her healing journey. It wasn't a profile about weight loss, although her body was gradually changing with more balanced nutrition and regular physical activity. It was a space to talk about self-love, establishing healthy boundaries, rebuilding oneself after betrayal. Today marks 100 days since I discovered my relationship was a lie, she wrote. 100 days since I decided that the opinion of cruel people would no longer define my worth. I'm not getting over it to show them. I'm rebuilding myself for me. The post went viral, attracting the attention of an editor who proposed turning her story into a book. The writing process was therapeutic, reliving each moment, this time with emotional distance and the wisdom gained in recent months. Revisiting the restaurant scene, Letitia realized that had been her true transformation, not when she lost her first pounds, but when she found her voice. 1 year after the incident, Letitia was unrecognizable, not just physically having lost 77 pounds, but mainly in her essence. The insecure woman who sought external validation had given way to someone who radiated confidence. Her book, The Weight of Love, How a Cruel Bet Changed My Life, had become a bestseller, inspiring thousands of people to confront their own demons. On an autumn afternoon, while signing copies at a crowded bookstore, Letitia spotted a familiar face in line: Rodrigo. Thinner, with a haggard expression, deep, dark circles under his eyes. When his turn came, he placed the book on the table, unable to look her in the eye. "You didn't need to lose weight to prove your worth," he murmured. "You were already valuable before." Letitia smiled, not with anger or resentment, but with the serenity of someone who had finally found peace. "I didn't lose weight to prove my worth, Rodrigo. I changed because I decided to prioritize my health and happiness. The real transformation happened here." She pointed to her heart. "The moment I understood that no external approval could fill the void that I myself needed to heal." She signed the book and returned it, watching as he walked away with his head down. Beside her, Daniel, the man she had met during a literary event months before, gently squeezed her hand. It wasn't a fairy tale. She knew that real relationships required work, honesty, mutual respect. But for the first time, Letitia was in a relationship where she was loved not despite who she was, but exactly because of who she had become. A woman who knew her worth and accepted nothing less than she deserved. "Ready for the next chapter?" asked Daniel, smiling. Letitia looked at the line of people waiting to meet her, at the book that narrated her journey, at the man who loved her with integrity. The cruel bet that should have destroyed her had been the catalyst for her reconstruction. The story that began with tears of humiliation now unfolded into endless possibilities. "More than ready," she answered, with the certainty of someone who had finally found the true meaning of happiness, one that no one ever could take away from her.